Hey guys, good morning, or good afternoon, good evening. This is Tracilyn. I'm also known as VCAT. It's a Sunday morning here in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. I'm at the first school that I ever went to in the city. At that time, I don't know if it still is considered that, if it's still called Harding Elementary School. We were known as the Mustangs. So on the corner here of, let's see, right here's the sign. Chestnut, see that? Can you see it? And 6th Street. So of course, like I told you in the city, we would always say the numbers for 6th and Chestnut Street. I'm actually standing in front of the very first classroom that I ever attended. I don't remember what year it was. I would have graduated in 91. So this is first grade for me, the second time around. In this classroom is a classroom that I was telling you about where I started to have new friends. There was a lot of kissing going on in Lafayette Street. It was very contagious. It was at that age, you know. And the pressure was on me. Would I go through with a dare that some of my friends challenged me to and kiss a girl, a Spanish girl, that was extremely beautiful at that time? When the teacher left the room, remember I told you I did. Sitting somewhere more in the back of the class, she was sitting more up front. So I ran up front, gave her a kiss, and everybody was, ooh, ah, here comes a teacher. So, we had to hurry up and get back into our chairs. I don't know if they ever knew what was going on. I might have got in trouble for it later on, but let me just say that I was very attracted to her throughout the school years. She was the first girl that I attempted to kiss myself, but it was on a dare. I don't have a whole lot of memories here. I'm going to try to tap into it a little bit while I'm walking around. I pretty much went through all of the elementary. It was kindergarten, then 1st grade through 6th grade. I never went to kindergarten. I went to 1st grade in Jonestown, and then my second time around I started 1st grade here. Let me run back here really quick. I want to show you the staircase that is still in existence. The first flight of steps I went up. My sisters, of course, down the sidewalk. We walked a long way to come to school. At that time, we were not taking school buses. We walked together with my family, and then as I got friends, they lived up closer to the school. I'd meet them at their house. I think I talked to you about that, especially as I started going through my school life. They were dispersed throughout the neighborhood. Here we go. This is the first flight of steps. So I remember walking up these steps, up another flight of steps, indoors, and the very first door on the right, I don't even remember the teacher's name at this time, but can I say that right there at that doorsteps as I'm going up, I was crying my eyes out. In fact, I started crying my eyes out here in the corner. My sisters had a lot of compassion for me at that time. Remember, there was always something in me. I don't know why I didn't want to go to school. Maybe separation of parents and other things that I've gone through in my life at that time. But just the thought of going to school, it brought me down. I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be at home with my mom more than anything. And really, that continued throughout my whole school life. I wanted to be at home. Later years, I wanted to be at home playing guitar. If I'm not mistaken, at some point within this school, one of my friends also played guitar. Not the same friends that I got new friends when I was in junior high school, which I'm going to talk about today. And I think it was in that classroom that they actually sat up front of the class and they played some guitar. On the other side of the building where I walked in for school, This didn't happen until later years. I think it was right around the 4th or 5th grade when it really started to kick in. I mean, we had some minor bullying going on. You know, just normal. To me, at that time, it was just kind of normal stuff that was happening. You know, if you got smart with somebody, then I'm going to meet you outside after school. I'm going to deck you. I'm going to deck you in front of the school. And can I tell you, I'm standing here behind the front of the school. That side of the door that I told you I went in. There was many times just opposite of that. I came running down these steps as fast as I could. Now this is, understand, this is a Super Bowl moment here at Harding Elementary School. I don't really have time to really break it down and reevaluate and process through exactly what grade I was in when things started to occur. I just know it started to happen at this school, and it increased more and more every year until my 4th and 5th year grade. It just got so bad that remember I said I played hooky a lot? The reason is because I started getting bullied all the time. It just kept increasing, manifesting. Other people saw me getting beat up, and my friends too. I wasn't the only one getting beat up, so this was just a common thing that was going on. If you said something smart to somebody, they wanted to deck you after school. They didn't really at that time they didn't have teachers kind of supervising after school. I guess they're kind of wrapping things up inside. They have meetings and things to go to. So during that time, okay, this is back in the 80s, they didn't seem to be standing outside after, and I don't really remember them beforehand. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody else who sees this video could leave me a comment and say, no, you know what, I remember there were teachers that were around. They just, you know, whatever. I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble. But back here at this building, okay, it was a library at the time. But I specifically remember that a lot of fights, for whatever reason, the kids in the higher class, which have been my class really, it was usually the class ahead of me. So this is why I wonder a lot of times, would my life been different? Would I have been hanging around these guys and they kind of would have took me under their arms, protected me because they got the opportunity to know me through classes, and they might not have picked on me so much? And even so, if they would have, maybe it would have been still other people from junior high school. A lot of times would pass through here, and they would kind of mess around with the kids in elementary school. Not all the time, but sometimes you would see that would happen to not just me, to other people as well. This was a manifestation process that followed me all the way into my high school years, okay? So right here in this corner, I remember specifically there was a Spanish guy, which I'm going to share with you a story as to what ignited the first fight between the two of us. But I remember I was standing against this wall. I got cornered into this wall by his friends who kind of trapped me. There was no escaping to go out the alleyway here. They were starting to close in here. Now understand, there was only 3 or 4 of them. And I got to be honest with you. I don't think some of the guys wanted to see this happen. They were kind of hanging in a pack, and they had a pack leader. And I'm gonna be honest. He kind of reminded me. He was very handsome. He kind of reminded me of Michael Jackson. He kind of had that look about him. For some reason, remember, I relate characters and stuff. So I actually was kind of attracted to him, not intimately, not sexually, but just because, wow, that guy looks really cool. I'd like to get to know him. That's the way I felt. And his friends that were around him, I think they were just trying to stick together as a team. And if he wanted to fight somebody, they just kind of were a part of that. It was very obvious to me at that time. I can honestly stand here and say that I don't think they wanted this to happen, especially as often as it did. But it was what they'd done together as a team. And I remember being against this wall right here, right below this window. And he punched me. He always had this habit of punching me in the head. Okay, straight in the head, usually on the side. Okay, and I didn't know how to defend myself. At this time, I'm not taking karate yet, but this is what started to get me into it. And I remember my head smacking against this wall, not once, not twice, several times. And I couldn't get out of it. My friends are scared. A lot of the guys I hung around with, they didn't want to fight. They were into ColecoVision, Atari games, video games, riding bike, creating things. But I'll never forget that. As long as I live, being cornered in that situation. Okay? And I could see the look in their friends' eyes. They didn't want this to continue. That's when it really excavated and got at its worst. Okay? It was like a nightmare to me. So there were often times, if you look down here, which I'm not going to walk back around the school, but there's also exits. If you look, as I'm shining this camera and I continue to talk, if I forget to mention to you, there's exit doors or entrance doors throughout the building. Some of them are fire exits. The adults that worked here at that time, the teachers, the principals or whatever, the nurses, they would use these different doors to enter and exit the building. And I started finding inside this building, I started seeking throughout my school day when I would be walking from classroom to lunch to recess, wherever it is that I was going, I was always looking for a new way out. You know, that place, that I can go out that way today and nobody will ever notice me, you know, because they're used to seeing me come out of this entranceway or the one out front. Rest assured, I always knew when the bell was going to ring. We were allowed to stand, and for a lot of these classes, we were allowed to get ourselves ready and stand at the door. Some teachers didn't want us standing at the door, but other teachers didn't mind. We'd stand at the door until that final bell rang. And let me tell you something, I jetted out of here. I jetted out of here. Them doors would go swinging way open. And somehow, I don't know how, but these guys would get out a little bit earlier than me sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. And that's when I get my head smacked into that wall, eventually in later years. On this side, which I can't really see, they don't have windows up here, but on the same level in first grade, at the complete other side of the hallway, this was where I was in second grade. Understand, this specific gentleman that was fighting with me at that time didn't start there. I was kind of getting picked on by other kids, mainly because of my long hair. And let me tell you something, I never really understood that, because some of these guys who had long hair, maybe if it was blonde or whatever at the time, for some reason, they would look at you as, I don't know how to word this. They had long hair, so they saw that you had long hair, and they wanted to, I guess, be the only kids in school with long hair. You know, because it seemed like because you have long hair, I'm going to beat you up. You know, I don't want you to have long hair like me. I don't want you to look like me. I want to be kind of an individual, is what it kind of reminded me of. There were many times down here is the lunchroom, or it used to be the lunchroom. This is where the fight originally started. I don't know what grade I was in, maybe fourth, maybe third. But one day when I was in this lunchroom, we kind of came down, which I don't know what it is now, it might be offices. But basically I came down here to lunch one day, and I usually sat with my friends. We would enter the lunchroom and walk way up here. We'd wait in line, the whole classes. There was like maybe first and second graders went together. I'm not sure, I don't really fully remember. But we would wait in lines, and then we go around. Some of us packed. I usually packed peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I lived on that my whole life, even to this day. And we would wait in line. We'd get to talk to some of the cafeteria ladies. They were very friendly most of the time, very friendly. And we would get our meals. I usually got tokens. Do you know what tokens are? If your family's on a tight budget and you need assistance with food, you would usually go towards the principal's office or whatever and get it was either the token for that day, which later I think became tickets, or maybe they gave you tokens for the whole week. I'm not sure. I forget about that too. I'd have to reflect back a little while, maybe ask some questions about it. But we would come up here inside, and there was kind of like rails around to kind of fizzle out the line a little bit, keep everybody in order. And then we would start to tell the cafeteria ladies what it was that we wanted. Okay, especially as I got older in later years, we got to have a selection of different things if we paid a little bit more money. Sometimes I'd have extra money. Back here, after we were done eating at these tables, we would come to the very back, and it was pretty neat. There was this window, and it had a garbage can there, but there was also a really cool guy that worked there at that time. And you would kind of hand your tray and what you didn't want through the window. From what I remember, that's the way we used to do it. And he was always so friendly to all the children. Not judgmental, it didn't appear that in any way. Whether it was a janitor maybe or something like that who just worked during the lunch times. But it was back in this area. Back here is where he used to sit with his friends. Okay, remember I was telling you, I think he's Spanish. Please If he comes across it or anybody else, I'm not 100% sure if he was Spanish. He looked Spanish. Okay. And that was rare. This was dominantly at that time. It was a more white school, but there was a mix. It was a diversity that was in here. But not so much as you may find in other bigger cities. I don't know what it's like now. And remember, I'm getting introduced to all this, so I have some fears from neighborhoods of people telling me lies. You know, I'm feeding my information off of what people are telling me, which I'm learning in life. Most of it was just lies and fairy tales to cast fear in me, dominate me, oppress me, control me. Well, he's sitting back here with his friends. Okay. And I walked back there with my earring in my ear at some point. I think I might have been in the 4th grade when this happened. I had my ear pierced, my left, not my right. At that time, a guy did not get his right, and I was a guy at that time in the eyes of everyone. So at that time, boys didn't get their right ear pierced because that was a sign that you were gay. Okay, at that time. I never knew what to make out of that as a child growing up. So I got my left ear pierced. Remember with my mom's husband who was Italian? He did it. I thought that was cool. I wanted to decorate myself. I wanted to be cooler, you know? And now I do it because I love wearing earrings, you know? It's a way for me to decorate and express my inner spirit. So I walk back there, and he sees that my ear is pierced. His ears are pierced. Not too many guys at that time had their ears pierced. And much like I told you with the guys with long hair, who would see me with long hair, for some reason it would upset them about this. Kind of silly, right? The same thing happened with this earring. At that time, I don't really remember too many other boys having their ear pierced. Maybe his friends did, I don't know. But much like in other cities, that maybe colors was what matters. You're wearing our colors, you shouldn't be wearing our colors kind of thing. This was, you know, you got your ear pierced, and you got long hair. Who do you think you are? I have my ear pierced, not you. And let me tell you something, there was words tossed there that I can't clearly remember right now. But at that time, I'm pretty much getting sick of things that are happening in the neighborhood and the separation of my parents. I'm dealing with all of the normal life stresses. And remember, I told you I had a smart mouth. There were times that I would get smart with people. Not that I wanted to fight, but just that pretty much leave me alone. You know, did you ever feel that way? Just leave me alone. I'm just trying to get my way. They told me I have to come here. I'm not here because I want to be. They're telling me I have to come here. It was a miserable, miserable life for me, my school life. So something was said, and I remember him slamming down the tray, and basically he gave me the finger, straight up in front of his friends. Not the finger to curse me out, but like pointing. You're dead after school. After school. And because at that time I already started learning that if you told people you would meet them right here, which is I told him I'd meet him right out here, I told him I got smart, and I'm sorry for that, but I did. I got smart and I said, outside these windows, after school. Because I mean, he was intimidating me in front of the whole class that was down here eating lunch. What would you do in a situation like that? Did you ever come into a situation like that? You know, kind of humiliating you in front of everyone. You're already having a tough life. And you know you don't want to fight, but the bottom line is this guy is humiliating me. So I don't want to ride too much about it, but I told him I would meet him right out here in the alleyway. In the alleyway. Let's meet in the alleyway. And can I tell you something? While he was meeting me in the alleyway, I'm jetting out the front door and taking a long way around up top. See, I started eluding people, telling them I would meet them somewhere, knowing full well that I'm heading out another door and I'm running for my life to get home. Okay? To deal with my other problems that I had. To escape. Started escaping. I don't remember what class I was in. I think it was 4th for some reason. I think he was in 6th grade at the time. Maybe he was in 5th. I'm not sure. If he happens to see this, you know, I've been dealing with this my whole life, and I'd like to think that I healed over it, but let's face it, it still affects, it makes us who we are. So it could have been anybody else in the world. Thank goodness it was him, because you're going to find out some pretty amazing things here. I want to make sure that you know that in the end, this gentleman came down to the place I lived on Chestnut Street to make amends of everything. But it didn't go without at least that school year, if not 2 school years, of being harassed by him specifically and his friends. And the more that this went on, remember I told you back here, that's where it kind of excavated there when my head hit the wall, is, this is something, you know, you get your ear pierced and now your head's getting bounced off the wall. It's crazy, isn't it? You think that's a foolish reason to fight somebody because they got their ear pierced? Nowadays, I can rest assured, it absolutely is. Back in that day, if it appeared that you were trying to look like somebody else, it was very intimidating to them. They wanted to be the only ones with their ear pierced. They wanted to be the only ones with long hair. They wanted to be the only ones with a certain Nike pair of sneakers on. You know, I remember Nike was really big back in that time. I don't know if they still are. It's a horrible situation, or horrible reasons to want to beat somebody up. Now understand, I did get smart with him in the beginning. But I have everything else going on in my life. You know, get off my back is what I'm thinking. To this day, get off my back, people. You know, I don't want to be fighting people over silly things. So let's be friends. Let's be friends and do something together, you know? Something creative, constructive. Over here, I was in 3rd grade. I remember running out of these steps many times too. I remember specifically being in this classroom, and that's where the bell thing, this teacher was wonderful. For anybody who wants to reflect back, I will say the name. She was a public teacher. From what I remember, is it Mrs. Boss or Miss Boss or something like that? She was big into music, an elderly lady, and I'll tell you what, she helped to bring out the best in me, music-wise. I loved her to death. So over here, while I was in that classroom in 3rd grade, there were teachers up here. Okay, this is all classes. And I remember specifically that there was a gentleman at the time, I think he had red hair, and then that guy with the long hair. These guys were catching whim of me getting beat up throughout the years. So sometimes what children will do, or people in general will do, is if they see somebody being attacked and bullied on a regular basis, for some reason it invites themselves into it, and they look for different reasons to fight you. And the biggest reason, after analyzing this over and over again, is simply they want to look tougher. They want to look tough so they don't get beat up by the higher class kids. So they start bullying you around. See, it just keeps attracting more trouble to you. All of a sudden you become Harding Elementary School's punching bag. And what frustrates me the most is that it appeared to me that no matter who I would talk to about this, nothing was being done about it at that time. My hope is, for any children that are being bullied around here, that you start reaching out to people that you can trust, or any school, not just here. I'm not trying to put a bad rap out for it. This is years ago in the 80s. Reach out to people. If the teachers aren't doing something about it and the principal isn't doing something about it, go to law enforcement. Go to adults in your life that you can trust, that have fire, passion to end the bulliness, okay? Let us do that. And be careful, even if you are being bullied, try to keep your temper down and don't get smart with people. But be effective, reach out to other people. And if the school isn't doing something about it, then you need to go higher up than that. And I don't know the whole process of it. Maybe someday I'll have the opportunity to help kids who are being bullied go through a process of what can we do as a community to stop it, to end the bulliness, at least bring it down a little bit, you know? Education. We need to be educated in this. Before I go too much more into my school life, I wanted to let you know I used to have one of these garages over here. And often I used to come back here to a garage where I had I think it was my Demon, or my AMX at the time, my 68 AMX. I would keep it garage kept in there, and I'll tell you what, it never went without a flashback in my mind. The memories of what happened down there in our lunchroom that day. It never went without reminding me. Every time I'm around here, I remember it. Even now, I remember that. I remember back here, there was no fence. Okay, and if there was holes through the fence, and we would often run out the doors, especially when I was in 3rd grade over here, And we would run up this parking lot, through the doors and through the garages, oftentimes eluding everybody, running away as fast as we can down the alleyway to get home. So I'm assuming it started when I was mainly in the 4th grade, big time, by the time I was living on Chestnut Street, because I never not ran down that alleyway. Every day after school. Listen to me, every day after school I ran down that alleyway. Every day I tried my very best to get down these steps as fast as I can. The doors went flying open. You know, and there was often times that I remember standing up here, volunteering for my teachers. Not that I wanted to be a teacher's pet, but I started liking a lot of my teachers. And there were times that I would take erasers, you know, for the chalkboards. They used to use them years ago. I don't know what they use now. And I'd be right here. They call it clapping erasers. And depending on which way the wind was going, usually it seemed to be going in this direction, I would be standing here on the steps clapping erasers. You know, you put them together and it would get the dust off for the teachers. I loved doing that to help her. I really did love helping my teachers. So sometimes they were saying, oh, as a brownie, you're a brownie, you're being a brownie. Did anybody ever tell you that? Don't listen to it. If you like your teachers and you want to help make their job a little bit easier, please do it. You know, I really love this teacher especially because she was into music and she had a piano in here. She had a piano, and from what I remember, if it wasn't every day, it was at least once a week. She wasn't the music teacher that I remember, but she would play music for us, and we all appreciated it. Most of us appreciated it greatly. So if she's out there, she hears this, thank you. You have no idea. Music is a huge part of my life. It always was. And that helped me to feel a little bit more at home because my grandparent, remember my grandma I was telling you? Used to love sitting on her piano bench. She helped me to sing. She helped me to sing, and she knew I was very passionate about music. So she did it for all the children, but she tailored to me a little bit with that. She brought out some of the best in me. I remember in this classroom, some good memories. She taught us how to rinse out cups. I don't really remember the details of it, but I do remember a rinsing process of 3 times. 3 times before it would absolutely be clean. And I don't know what exactly it was, but we started working on all kinds of different projects here. So of course I also wanted to be a part of that. I want to help clean things up. Remember, I'm doing things like this at home with my mother. This is something I enjoyed during those years. So I sat kind of more in the back, which I can't really show you right now. It'd be so neat to go into school and just kind of show things around. I don't think they'd like that too much. But her desk was always up front of the classroom here. Can you see it? And her piano was up front. I'm not sure if we stood or not to sing. I don't remember exactly what songs we sang at this time. I don't anyway. Maybe they'll come back to me. But I do remember this classroom specifically really touched my heart. Really loved that lady. And I think I started trying to reach out to her, but I was scared, you know. I was kind of embarrassed. How do you tell a teacher you admire, you know, you're being bullied every day and you don't know how to deal with it? I understand that lunchroom argument. I don't know when that started. I don't know what year I was in, what class, you know, if I was in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade is what I'm thinking before that started to kick in. It might have been 3rd grade. Might have been 3rd grade. 2nd grade, over on the other side of this building, when I was talking to you, I was saying, you know, I don't remember a whole lot about things that happened in our classrooms, but I will tell you this. If I remember correctly, is it Jimmy Carter? Is it Jimmy? I gotta look back in history. Is it Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan or something like that? I faintly remember voting. We had like a little voter's booth, okay, made out of cardboard. She tried to get, the teacher over in 2nd grade was trying to give us the experience of, as we get older, to be a part of the voting process. I was never really, I'm gonna be honest with you. Up until later years, I was really never interested in politics at all. You know, it just wasn't for me. I'm going to share something else here with you that might upset you, and I don't mean to, but I'm going to be honest. This is my childhood years in the 80s. Over 20 years ago, way over 20 years ago. But I remember I was so excited to be a part of that voting process. I was withdrawn from the whole class, but I got to be a part of something. And can I tell you that I went in there and I voted, and I remember her looking down, you know, and smiling at me. That's all I remember. I don't remember exactly why she was smiling at me. I remember using a number 2 pencil. Number 2 pencil. And if I remember correctly, it was Jimmy Carter that I voted for. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I have to look back. Can you guys look back and see? Whatever president was that I voted for with my number 2 pencil, didn't get it that year. That was another thing that I used to oppress myself, to feel bad about myself. Hey, what's the use of me voting if when I vote, the president isn't going to make it? You know? Do you ever think crazy stuff like that? Or maybe you actually voted for a president and maybe he got into office and you're kind of disappointed. You're disappointed because you're going off of things that maybe you were either told by friends about what that president stands for. But while you're living, while he's serving his term, it doesn't feel that way. Did you? I have. And I'll be honest with you, since I hit 18 and stuff, for a lot of different reasons, I never really did vote. And I don't want to get too much involved in politics. I don't want to tell you not to vote and that votes don't matter. But as a childhood, in 2nd grade, I figured, what's the use? Why even bother? Even though we're doing it as a classroom, what's the point? And I would be jealous or embarrassed because of my other friends. They were like, yes, I voted for this president. And whoever it was it Ronald Reagan? Was it Jimmy Carter? I don't remember. But I do remember that my other friends who had voted for it, they were so excited. To me, it was kind of like in the games. Why do I always lose at games? Why do I always lose at sports? Why is it when I vote for a president, they don't get in the office? And why is it when I start rooting for a president that on a belief system that I'm collecting my own beliefs of what this president's going to do, and I find out in the end, everybody else is complaining because he didn't follow through with it. It's kind of confusing to me. My life alone is confusing. This is a garage. I don't want to shine it in here too much because there's some cars in there. But we used to come running out of there. In this alleyway, it feels like only yesterday. I can't even begin to count how many blocks down this alleyway that I would run. Usually by the time I got on the other side of 10th Street, we live down near 12th. So what did I say? We're at 6th Street. We got to go all the way down to 12th. Technically, I guess that would be 6 blocks down the road. But when I would be down there, you figure that's 6 blocks of running, but really these blocks are pretty long from street to street. So 6th Street, all the way down to almost 12th Street. But I would wait until I was just on the other side of 11th Street before I would stop running. And then I would just be looking over my shoulder until I went inside. Usually went in the back door because I didn't want to be seen walking out front. A lot of the kids during that time, hi, how are you?
Doing pretty good.
It's nice to meet you.
You see all these people coming down this alleyway?
Hold on, guys, I'll be right back to you. Got somebody to talk to. Okay, guys, so occasionally that'll happen when I'm talking. That lifts up my spirits a little bit. Met a gentleman, he was born in like 1954. He remembers the college down here, which was a tragedy. A tragedy. I think there's some lives that were lost. Anybody who lived in Lebanon during those times, I don't remember what year it was that happened. I'm sure you could check it out. But there was a college here, and I don't know the name of it. I don't remember at this time. He just told me, but I forget. And it burned down, and I remember the flames. I remember all the firemen that were there, and let me tell you, that's a whole other story there. Talk about touching the depths of your heart and your soul and having your wheels turning in your mind. And that affected everybody that was here. I'm so sorry that happened. They later on, rebuilt a new school there, or it might be the same school, but they did more work with that. So as I was talking, I was sharing with you. Sometimes I get lost here in train of thought when I told you when I hear noises and stuff. I used to run almost 6 blocks. Can you imagine that? every day. Now you know why I started taking off school. I don't want to go here and deal with this every single day of my life. Horrible. I would have rather been homeschooled, really, by my mother, if that was possible. So I'm not exactly sure which windows were our music room, but I'm thinking it was kind of somewhere in here. I could be wrong, but I might be right. You ever feel that way? You could be wrong, but you might be right. I was talking about the voting process over in 2nd grade, number 2 pencil. I remember the teacher smiling and looking at me. I don't remember a whole lot about that classroom at this time. I just remember my hair was really long. I think I had Reebok sneakers. Everybody had Nike sneakers. For some reason, I wanted to be like everybody else and have Nike sneakers too, but we were always on a tight budget, and we were very fortunate when we got Reebok's sneakers for Christmas. And if you remember, there were times that like my grandparents would help out my mother to help us have a nicer Christmas. My mom's boyfriends, the one girl that I was talking about on Union Alley that had the muscle car, and it was the first time I was asked the question, what would I feel like if my mother started dating a girl? I remember one year she bought us all sneakers for Christmas. That was really nice of her, wasn't it? We needed sneakers, we needed clothing. Times were hard, times were tight. And it seemed that it was very rare for me to get just a few clothing articles for school. Can I go on to this? I was always thankful when school year would come around, because that's when we would all go Christmas shopping, or not Christmas shopping, that's when we would all go clothing shopping together as a family. And a lot of times my dad would help us out in the younger years going to elementary school. Sometimes my grandparents were. But I remember getting so excited just for that. We got new clothing to wear to go to school this year. Maybe I won't get picked on so much. Maybe I won't get bullied around so much. I'll try to get something cool that maybe won't offend other people. And we used to try on our outfits after we got back from the department stores, and we would all run down. I remember this specifically at Lafayette Street, but this happened throughout my school years into like even high school. You know, you get your clothing, you get home. Do you do this? You get your clothing, you go home, whoever got it for you, and now everybody tries on their clothing, and you go down to the living room or wherever in the house, and you're like, what do you think of this? What do you think? This is my new outfit. This is my new shirt. This is my new sneakers. You know, you start dressing up. How am I gonna, usually the night before I would go to school, I would put on all my clothing, maybe ask a couple people around the house what they thought about it. Did you ever do that? I used to do that a lot, especially in elementary school. Because I wanted to, I guess looking back now, I wanted to blend in. I wanted to be liked. Did you ever feel that way? You just want to be liked by people. You don't want to get into fights and stuff. You want to make friends. Them were some good memories, trying on clothing for my mother. She was always so happy and proud of us, And it was rare. We didn't get too much clothing over the summer months, but just before school, I'm assuming in August, definitely before the beginning of September, we would be all going clothing shopping through the sources of different people. And that was a big celebration time at our house. We'd run home with the bags, go upstairs, try everything on yet again. We just got done at the store. Why are we trying it on now? And especially me throughout the school years, I would have everything ready. Don't know if it was my mother that got us trained to do that, but or if you do that now. I don't do that anymore, but I used to lay out my underwear, my socks. I'd have my sneakers there, my shirt, and my jeans. I'm trying to get myself geared up. I'm trying to like going to school and look forward to it. I'm trying to dress in a manner that will be more approved by my peers, by the other students that attend here. I don't know if all children do that. Do you? Do you do that now? Maybe you're in elementary school and you want to get your clothing ready before you go to school. You ask people around your house, how do I look? How do I look? Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you look at yourself in the mirror the night before. I usually now when I get up, the last second, and I believe a lot of the girls can vow for this, all of us can. Last second, you're rushing around, clothing in the closet's going flying all over the place. Your sock drawer, your nylons, whatever it is, your panties are flying all over because you want to make sure you color coordinate. Well, let me tell you something. Sometimes I think maybe, especially talking about it now because I forgot about that until I'm talking to you, maybe to this day I need to start prepping myself the night before. And I think that'd be wise. maybe be wise for me so I don't look so colorful. Like now I have an orange hat on, white shirt, or a white jacket and a pink blouse. My jeans, my black sneakers. Very colorful I am. This here, I think, was our music class. I don't remember a whole lot about that, but I do tell you this. I looked forward to going here. I don't know, I think it was once a week at least. But I remember, even during this time, they were talking about the possibilities of removing music from the schools. May I just encourage that if it hasn't been, somebody within the school, a lot of somebody, stand up for it. We need music in the school. We need music and art. We need it. We need it in the school. And I don't want to get too heavy into that. Yes, we need it. We need it because like I said, all this stuff going on in school, the only thing that I looked forward to ever going into the school, other than my teacher who had a piano in the classroom, was going to music class. And we all went together as a class. We walked down the hallway and we were excited to get different seats. You know, there was sometimes you had your favorite seat. We just had chairs in front of a board, if you will. But I remember this is where I learned doe, a deer, a female deer, ray, a drop of golden sun, me, a name I call myself, and it just went on from there. Do you remember that? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Let me do that again. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And then we go backwards. And I know that sounds horrible right now. That's where I learned do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And she had a piano in here too. And you want to know something? Whoever that teacher is, thank you. I don't remember. But I do know this. She was the first one ever, besides my teacher down here in 3rd grade at this time, ever made me feel good about myself. In fact, she made me feel so good that I didn't believe what she was saying either. Did you ever feel that way? Anybody ever compliment you, but yet at the same token you find what they're saying extremely hard, challenging to believe? This is where it started for me, okay? Because in this classroom, she would invest quality time with me after school by that piano, trying to help me to learn how to sing in front of the whole classroom. You'll find out later on when I talk about my music life, about the power that this has. And I don't know if everybody's aware of how powerful this is, but she's standing up in front of my classroom. And in the middle of her teachings, after we were done singing, she compliments my voice. She said, "Did you ever think of joining the choir? You have an outstanding voice." And there was a couple guys in here. I remember one specifically. His voice was outstanding, and he was in the choir. Now I had a friend with something in common. I want to sing. I remember who he was. And let me tell you something. He sang differently, you know? And I remember that I also compared myself. That's when I started comparing myself singing, that I remember. Started comparing, not with just the guys on the music, but now I'm meeting somebody in person, not just my uncle, but now I'm meeting another, a classmate. And I'm starting to compare myself. I'm not paying attention to what she said. She just told me, "Tracilyn, I love your voice. You ought to join a choir." That was a big moment in my life. I started going and meeting her after class. She knew I was being bullied. She knew all kinds of things were going on throughout the years. I would stop in even afterwards. I don't know if I was in junior high or what. I would stop by just to see her. I didn't really have much to say. I just wanted to see her. And she would ask me, you know, some of these teachers, they would ask me, "How are things going?" You know, somehow they knew that I had a rough home life. Somehow they knew that I was being bullied. You know, I don't know how. I don't know how. But they knew. If she's out there, she's still around. Let me tell you something, that I reflect back on that so many times in my life. So many times I reflect back when she said that to me in front of everyone. And I wanted to be a part of something, remember? I don't know exactly where it's located within this school, but there is what we call, I think it's an auditorium. And it was a place that we would go, and I remember specifically, to watch movies. Maybe the whole third grade, maybe the whole third and fourth grade. Maybe the whole school, I don't think so, but maybe a large portion of the school anyway. We would go into this auditorium and sit with our classmates, or wherever, we had to sit within our group. My class in third grade, we had to sit together here. Now, I don't remember what grade I was in throughout these times, so I'm going to kind of bounce around. But I remember watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with my classmates, with a movie projector. Did you ever use a movie projector? Let me tell you something, that started for me in fourth grade. I don't want to get there yet. But let me tell you something, movie projectors and working that, my friend who sang, he was a big part. There's some children during that time, they were involved in a whole lot of activities. They just love, they have so much passion to be involved within the school community. I wanted to be, but I didn't know where I fit in. I love to sing. I started loving movie projectors. Okay, in fourth grade. So here we go, we're watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as a class. Also within this auditorium, we would have plays. We would have gatherings for, like especially around Christmas time, where we would sing Christmas carols. And they would put on an event here where the parents could actually come in and see their children. Can I tell you, there were so many times that I was a part of that, and I wanted so bad for my parents to be there. And I'm not putting the pressure on with them. A lot of times they couldn't. My dad was in the road driving truck. My mother was working her job. But can I say that there would be moments that I would look out there from the stage. Oh, that's something. That's the first time that I ever had the opportunity to stand on the stage with lights. And they had them on the ground, on the floor facing up at you. They're kind of blinding you in a way. Ow, that hurts. That hurts. My eyes. Oh. And you could hardly see anybody out there in the seats. This was the first stage that Tracilyn ever stood on that I remember. Actually, in a school. Because remember, back in Jonestown is the first stage that Tracilyn stood on. I might be getting confused here a little bit. We got to cut that out. Oh. Also being a part of the choir, desiring that other people would come here and support me. I don't know if my brothers and sisters ever did. Because sometimes it was pretty neat when they would have weeknight events going on. That way, if parents were working, they couldn't make it in during the school hours, which was usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock approximately. 3:15. What do I remember 3:15? School dismissed at 3:15. And I always wish it was a little bit earlier, because I think in my junior high school years, what would end up happening is they dismissed a little bit earlier. Did I say 2:50 before? If I did, please forgive me. I think 3:15 very clearly now. See how this is manifesting forward? Memories are starting to come back. 3:15, and I always wish it would be a little bit earlier, because the junior high school kids and the high school kids got off, and you will find out that there were times that even high school kids, they would keep on moving where they're going, but they would push you out of their way, and you would hit your butt on the concrete right there. Where they had brothers and sisters maybe that didn't like you, and they were bullying you, so they would meet them here too, and they would want to watch these bullies beat you up. Kind of crazy, but it happened. It happened a lot, too much. So in here's the auditorium. My teacher, she's telling me I got talent. I got a beautiful voice, I should sing. Can I tell you, I was so happy. You know why? Because it was the first time that I remember, let me go back in time. It's the first time that I really remember in a large group like this in front of my school that I was selected to come out front to do a part. And it was usually my friend who was doing that, because he had a wonderful voice. I hope he still does. He had a wonderful voice, and he usually, a select few people really got that lead part. I don't remember what position I was in, if it was a soprano, bass, or what have you. I don't even remember all this other, the music levels. But I do remember I was a part of the choir, and there was at least one time where I had the opportunity to stand out front. Let me tell you something, I was nervous. I think I did it with one or two people. We took different turns at taking the lead. I was nervous during those years. But my teacher gave me confidence, and my music teacher, and as well, my third grade class teacher, she gave me the confidence that I needed to do it. Because they kept telling me, I can do it, you can do this, you got a great voice, beautiful voice. I was telling you here in 4th grade, this is where I came in. Okay? That's where I came in from Union Alley, up the road. After my brother's bike was sprayed by a skunk. Let me tell you something. The whole class freaked out over that. Who is it? Why is there a skunk in here? What's going on? It was Tracilyn, Stinky. That's me, I'm Stinky. Still to this day, I stink. Only when I don't shower for a few days. Can I tell you something? She was my first black teacher. And everybody loved her. Everybody in this school loved her. She was somebody that you could come to anytime. She would always tell you that. If you want somebody to talk to, come to me. She was a great teacher. Things that were taught to me, this is when I realized I love math. I love numbers. I like working with numbers. I was never good at English, but I love numbers. And let me tell you something. A long way ago in 1st grade, you're doing 2 plus 2, 2 plus 0. By this time, I'm not sure. I think we may be doing timetables, maybe not yet. We could be doing, I don't even know what else is left in there. What else is left? Fractions? We may be, I don't know, maybe not yet. In the 4th grade, I forget what level we were at there. But can I tell you something? That's when I knew 100% for sure I love math. I love numbers. Very attracted to numbers. And now I have one of the sweetest ladies in all the world. Back in the neighborhood where I was raised in Lafayette Street before coming up here in Union Alley. Now, by this time, I'm living in Union Alley. You don't go into a black neighborhood. Why? I always wondered why. I want to have friends. I want to have all kinds of friends. Maybe they're stopping me from having my best friends in the world. Maybe the man of my dreams lives on 12th Street, or in another neighborhood. Why are people scaring me like this? But I was scared. Not after meeting her. She changed my life. I knew 100%, but at this time, I think, is when I slowly started getting involved with that Spanish guy fighting me. So I was kind of confused. Why is this lady of color being so sweet, but yet this, I didn't understand this. I'm a child. I don't understand. I'm trying to process this. Why am I having problems with Spanish people? And, people are warning me about black people. I'm getting all confused here. Stay away from the gay community. Stay away from blacks. Stay away from Spanish people. All this stuff is going on, but the first Spanish girl I ever kissed, and the first girl I ever kissed willingly, I was attracted enough to kiss, was a Spanish girl. I always did. I don't know why. I was always attracted and drawn to Spanish people. I always wanted to learn Spanish, I dabbled in it a little bit here and there. But let's face it, one person can't do everything or perfect everything. Some people have talent like that. I'm learning in life, not me. I can't perfect everything. I love math. I love music. I love talking. I love all this different stuff. But at what point in life do I just focus on one thing? So as I'm sharing with you my life story, I don't remember a whole lot. Here in our classes, we started putting the tables together, our desks. We started putting them together more. So like I'm looking at you now, my best friend will be right across from me, his desk facing me, my desk is facing him. Instead of sitting in rows, side by side, what would end up happening is we'd have like maybe 4 or 5 tables together, 6 tables together, and we'd have a group of us. So now they started putting us in groups. I don't know if that's still the way the school system works, but looking back on it, I realized that in 4th grade is when that happened. Was it just her? I'm not sure. I don't really remember too much, because in my junior high school years, I think it was a mix, depending on what class you were in at the time. They did things differently, right? Differently. It's okay to do things differently. So I'm going to tell you, I remember her name, Mrs. Simmons. A beautiful lady. Beautiful lady. I would like to meet her again, if she's still around. Say hello. I don't remember a whole lot more than that, except for I could go to her and talk to her all through my years. Even when I was in junior high, if I remember correctly, I stopped by her a couple times just to see her. And there were certain teachers, it's like they just knew that I was struggling. They might not have known the details. They're just checking in on me. How are things coming along? A lot of the teachers like her eventually started finding out about what was going on, with my Spanish friend, who later became my friend, So she played a big part in my life. Math. the skunk experience. I wonder if she ever had that before or after. But the thing that was really cool is your sisters and your brothers, at that time my sisters, you know, your other friends from around your neighborhood, they had her too. And let me tell you something, everybody loved her. Everybody. So you wanted to get your sister's teacher. You know, you want to get your sister's teacher. And you would always ask, you know, over the summer months before you would be going to the next grade, what teachers did you have? What teachers did you have? Or your sisters would ask you, what teacher are you getting? Do you know what your homeroom teacher is going to be? Do you know? Do you know? That was a big deal, even through junior high school. Everybody wants to know, what teacher do you have? Are you getting the same teacher I got at one time? So without walking around this building too much, I wanted to kind of come in the shade. 5th grade was more in the alleyway, closer to where I got my head smacked against the wall a few times. And I remember, I'm not going to say the name, I remember the name. Can I tell you, she was one of the meanest teachers that I ever had. I don't know what she was struggling with, but it was definitely one of the meanest teachers I ever had. I hope she's doing good. Whatever it was in her life, I hope it's worked out. I don't want to put a bad name out for anybody, but I'm not even going to point to the window, none of that stuff. But I remember I thought she was beautiful. She always smelled good, and she always looked really good. Very inspirational beauty-wise. Kind of reminded me of my mother, only a little bit shorter, a little bit skinnier. She was really skinny. And I just remember it wasn't me personally, it was all the students. And I'm thinking to myself at that time, well, you know, after going through with Mrs. Simmons, who was, or Miss Simmons, she was absolutely amazing. Amazing person. Everybody loved her, in the whole class, in the whole school. How could you go from 4th grade to the sweetest teacher in all the world to what is known? I mean, there was different personalities that at that time in the 80s, not now, in the 80s. How could all of a sudden you get double-crossed? Did you ever get double-crossed? Who played this joke on me? Why do I have a teacher that's so mean? So let me just tell you this, without going into too much detail, math got a little tougher by that time mainly because the teacher. Can I tell you that? A lot of my learning started being affected because of the teacher. I don't know what stresses she had. Okay, I don't know. So I'm not trying to hurt her or beat her up. She might not even know who I'm talking about. And that's better. That's better that way. Because can I just say that it made learning for me even more challenging. I'm dealing with all the things in my life, at home life, being bullied around by children here, don't know what to do about it. Everything I seem to be doing doesn't seem to be working. There's kind of a silence between me, maybe, and a couple teachers here and the music teacher, knowing, you know, let's dabble into what you love in life. Let's bring out your talents, your true talents. Please don't ever remove music from school. If it has been, let's get it back into school. Really? Okay. So, but I will tell you something pretty remarkable that happened to me in 5th grade. Can you see this close? I can't point at it right now. Let me sit this down. Can you see this? Right here. I'm going to lift up the camera. Look here in my hand, if you can. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to hold it up, but right now, see back here? Look closer now, once I get the lighting on it. See that little black mark there? Is that a number 2 pencil? I think it is. And you know why? I was taking a pencil with the eraser and I was bouncing it on my desk like we were told often not to. Bouncing, 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 bouncing. Instead of doing what I was supposed to be doing with it. Okay? And what ended up happening is I accidentally, just like my bottle right here, I put my hand down on it and that number 2 pencil went directly into the palm of my hand. You want to talk about hurt? It hurt really bad, and it broke the point of it off, so please don't do this. It broke the lead point of it off. And I had to get rushed down here to the hospital because I ran out, not necessarily rushed, but I went to my teacher and I told her about it. And can I tell you something? That same mean teacher, I'll never forget, she was so sweet to me at that moment. She knew that it hurt me. I started bleeding, and she wanted to get me down to the nurse. So from what I remember, I'm almost sure she walked me down to the nurse's office downstairs. And at that point, I remember the nurse helped me. She had kind of like a needle, and she was helping me she was digging it out for me, getting the lead out. And I remember she told me, she said, you're always going to have that in your hand. Was she lying, do you think? Do you think she was fibbing to me back there when I was in 5th grade? I mean, how old was I? That was 7 years. We're 18. I was probably 11, somewhere in there, 11, 12, 11. 5th grade teacher. She knew what happened. I got scolded for it. I don't remember if she walked me down or not, but I went down to the nurse, and I'll never forget it. We had a great nurse here. She often had to help me. Often. To the point that finally one time that the nurse told me, don't you think it's time to talk to the principal? Don't you think it's time we talk to the principal and try to work this out here with what's going on? Okay? So people knew, I guess a lot of times, maybe the teachers didn't know how to deal with it. How do you deal with it, as I say, when kids are being bullied? Especially certain ones are always being bullied. Do they deserve it, or are they having a smart mouth? Maybe they do deserve it. They don't deserve it. Okay, I didn't deserve it. All right. I probably need a psychiatrist here, a psychologist available. And I'm not sure if there was. I think that's kind of where some of the other people in the office positions, they would kind of, a counselor. You had a counselor. They could usually help you. I was too scared to talk to a counselor. I was too scared that if I would start talking to other people, that it would just escalate. Things would get worse. I don't want to make my life worse. How can I make it better? Do you have any suggestions? I'm going to school here. My mean teacher is now being helpful to me. I remember times of her pulling me out of that classroom by my arm, into the hallway. I'm not sure if she spanked me at that time or not, but I do remember that teacher, and it wasn't just me. She was having a hard time dealing with the students by that time. Okay, maybe her personal life, who knows what she was going through. I'm so sorry. Very attractive lady. I do remember that time. It seemed that she had a little more compassion for me. And I remember the nurse. I always loved the nurse. Because you know what? I would go to that nurse before school was dismissed. I would ask one of my teachers, could I please go down and see the nurse? I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling good because my stomach hurts. Because I'm going to get beat up today. I would usually wait till after lunch. And I would tell them that I ate something at lunchtime that just really made me sick. So that, and it would upset me sometimes because they would say, okay, since it's almost time to go home anyway, you know, we can dismiss you at 2 o'clock, you know, instead of 3:15. We'll let you go at 2 or 2:30, okay? And usually there'd be times, that's the way that it would happen, but there would be some times that the nurse had like a laying station, okay? So you would lay down in her, I guess, private room there. There was like a bed. And that was for the students who maybe ate something and were sick, or for whatever reason. They had to lay down for a little while. They had a headache. You know, she would fix them up. And can I tell you, she was the sweetest lady. She was the sweetest lady. And there were many times she left me go home early. You know, do you think you'd be all right to go home? Yes. And she let me go home. I don't know. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't know how they work things then or how they do things now. And don't use my ideas to get out of school. Okay, please? Please don't do that. I often went to that nurse. And I remember one time she said, don't you think it's time that we talk to the principal? I was scared of the principal. You know why? Can't tell you why. Let's take a walk. I'm going to tell you about the principal once we get over here. So down this hallway, I get to know the nurse pretty good because I'm always sick. Why are you always sick, Tracilyn? It's very obvious why you're sick. Okay, you can go home early today. You know, I can't tell you how many times I had to walk down to that office with a doctor's note. Because I think you could miss up to 2 days without needing a doctor's note at that time. Anybody familiar from the 80s? But you could definitely miss 1 day, and you just need a note from your mom. So a lot of the students at that time, we would write our own notes, or we would get a friend to write a note, or a sister, or somebody who had better handwriting. I'm not saying my sisters did it, but somebody who had nicer handwriting than us, and I had pretty nice handwriting, so there's times we kind of work things out. Don't beat me up if I write you a note. How's that? If I write you a note so you can skip school a day or two, we do that. And let me tell you something, when we skipped school, I always stayed home. I remember watching Inspector Gadget, watching cartoons. You know, Inspector Gadget was a big deal to me back then. I loved it. It made me laugh. It made me forget about everything that was going on. A lot of the kids that skipped school during that time, they would roam around these alleyways all day long. And let's just say that very rarely did we get in trouble, whether it be for law enforcement or anything like that. So, and sometimes they would know. Sometimes these cops, they got to know the children quite well in this area. And sometimes they just knew, you know, you guys better stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. Don't get into any mischief out here because we're working today. All right? We don't want to get you guys in any trouble, kids. Be good. Okay? That's the way it was back then. Played a lot of hooky, ran around the alleyways. That wasn't me. I didn't want to be out running the alleyways because chances are I'm going to get beat up by the other kids who were playing hooky. Okay? I went home. I watched cartoons. I ate a lot of SpaghettiOs. Microwavable spaghetti was popular back then. These are things that I started using. I think we had a microwave there. Maybe not yet that soon. Maybe that only happened at Lebanon Village, you know, in my junior high school years. But I do remember eating a lot of SpaghettiOs as a kid, you know. There'd be times I would go visit my mom. She worked at a local hotel here, and she did laundry. Sometimes she did maid services, and she was assistant boss for a while. And I would go there, and I would sit, and either it was after school, and I ran there. School got out early. I would run up there because I was too scared to run home. So sometimes I'd run up to my mom, but I didn't want my mom to know everything. That's quite embarrassing, isn't it? Mom, every day I go to school, I'm getting beat up. How do I share that with her? I didn't know how to share it with her. She has so many other things going on in her life. You know, I don't want to stir her up and make her worry about me all the time. It took me years before I started telling her. I don't think I ever told her like I'm telling you guys right now. It was a rough life for me. The last thing I cared about is getting an education when I came here. I was always planning a new way out. I was even talking to my friends, you know. And they would even say, hey, you know, today when the bell rings, meet me here. We'll run out this way. Sometimes I ran through the auditorium and hid. You know, sometimes I would hide in the auditorium. Sometimes I'd sit there for a while and give it about 15, 20 minutes, because usually by that time everybody wants to get home anyway. Even the bullies. Even the bullies, they would wait outside for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes smoking their cigarettes and stuff. And after their cigarette, if they didn't see you, they're heading home. They got other things to do. Go drinking or something, you know? That's the way it was. At that time, I think I was introduced to drugs were happening here at the school. Not now. I'm saying back in the 80s. I think a lot of these guys, when they were hanging together, they were doing drugs. I don't just think, I know it. Okay, some of them, weed was a big thing. They were getting dabbling into other things, and it was well known in the school who did drugs and who didn't. And can I just say, I didn't fit in with what we had. Listen to me. I mean this respectfully. This is what we called each other. I didn't hang out with the jocks. I couldn't hang out with the girls like I wanted to. Sometimes the tough girls would kind of take me in under their wings. Here, you'll find out. But can I just say, I didn't get the opportunity to hang out with all the people that I would have liked to. I didn't fit in. I don't hang out with the guys with long hair. I don't hang out with the druggies and people who smoked. I can't really hang out with the older people. I got kind of like my friends who were into computers and stuff and ColecoVision, you know. So with that being said, I was about ready to tell you something here that happened, and I totally lost track. We're down here. Oh, here we go. Remember, I love spankings. I really do, by people who care about me. And a lot of it started because of my childhood. It takes me back to my childhood, and I like to be a naughty girl now, okay? Here at this window, directly across from it, we used to have a short principal. I hope he's doing well. Some people really liked him, and some people realized that at a very early age that he wasn't necessarily the nicest person. He was kind of like a law enforcement. He's making sure that you're being behave. If you're not being behave, you're gonna get the paddle. Did you ever get paddled in school? In front of all your classmates? Oh, talk about humiliation, especially by the guys who are bullying you around. Well, let me tell you something. In this classroom, or in lunchroom, I was eating lunch one day. I did something. Maybe it was running in the halls. We had a habit of running in the halls, and as we went through the archways, we would jump up and smack them as hard as we could. Did you ever do that? Something silly like that? And we go through and just kind of smack around things, whether it was pictures or I don't know if there was locker rooms in here or not. But I remember running, jumping, and hitting the archway. And sometimes we pretend that we hit our head. And I remember doing that day. I hit my head, but I put my hand in front. So I'm kind of tricking my friend. And still to this day, I don't know if he's watching this or not, still to this day, he probably thinks that I really hit my head. Okay, but I didn't. And let me tell you something right now. There was a teacher, or the principal, one day got upset because I was running through the hallway or something. And he didn't hesitate to bring his paddle in here and have me put my hands up on that table and give me a good spanking in front of the whole school. Whatever classes were here. Usually I think the 5th and 6th graders went together. Sometimes the 4th, 5th, and 6th. I'm not sure how it was. Maybe you guys remember. But that happened in front of, I don't remember what grade I was in. Probably in my younger years, maybe 1st, 2nd. I think as I started excelling in school, meaning going into the higher grades, I think that started to fizzle out. People weren't getting spanked as much. But I did one time. One time I got spanked in here. And there was a few teachers that were in here that you just simply did not want to be spanked by. And I remember some of the names still to this day. And I think it was in like the 5th grade year. You know? You didn't want to upset some of these teachers because they would use a wooden paddle on you. And if that didn't work, if you still got out of line, or you weren't going to take the discipline from there, then it was down to the office for the principal, and he'll take care of you. Okay, there was a lot of spanking going on. Lebanon was big on that for some reason. Thank you, Lebanon, because that's one of my things. I love it. Now I love it. I got spanked a lot here. Not me. Not just me. I got spanked once that I remember. I'm not sure if the other teachers did ever or not. Maybe my 5th grade teacher did. I'm sure it'll come back to me soon. I've noticed that when I share my story and then I start listening to it, sometimes I mess up like a date or two. So I'm going to be honest with you. Can I be honest? Sometimes I mess up maybe a grade. That's why I stopped talking about years. I'm just saying it, generalizing it as in the 80s kind of thing. Up there's a sign. I don't know if you can see it. Let me flip this around. Knowledge costs more than money can buy. What do you think of that? Gonna leave that thought in your mind. During the time of year, remember I told you it seemed that when I would try to partake in something, I was never on the winning team? It always seemed to be that way. Nobody wanted me on their team. In the time that I was going to school here, they had some kind of, like a logo, I guess you could say. I don't know what the proper terminology of it is. But instead of just being called Harding Elementary School, we got to pick what else could go along with that. And I'm trying to think of what that's called. Maybe you know. Not a logo, but basically we got to vote to see what else our school could be called. And let me just say, I can't think of it now. It's kind of ridiculous. I'll probably edit this out. But at some point, we got the opportunity to vote. And it was voted that we would be Harding Mustangs. Mustangs, like with horses, wild horses. And I remember I voted for something else that year. And can I tell you, that affected me. For once in my life, when I vote for something, you know, I want to be a part of the winning team, whatever that is, whatever that means. Nowadays, I don't really care so much. I just kind of got used to it. That I tell people right up front, if I'm going to play a game with you, you're going to win, you know? If I'm going to play sport, I don't even play sports, but if I did play sports, you're going to win. Do you ever feel that way? You just go through life and you just realize there's certain things that you're just not talented at? Mine was music. I should have really stuck with it pretty hard, pretty heavily. There was a time I remember the school buses used to come up here, and certain times out of the year we would go on road trips with the whole class. Maybe the whole 3rd grade, maybe the whole 5th grade. I'm not sure what grades we were in. And we might go to local museums or Middle Creek, kind of walk around for the day. And that was a big deal. I'm not sure if it really cost us money at that time, but I knew we had to have lunches and things like that, or maybe they provided the lunches. Can I tell you, it's not clear to me. Maybe some of you guys that are watching this know. But I think we did need finances for something, and I remember that was tough for my mother. You know, it was just another unnecessary expense for her. I used to feel bad about that. I want to go and be with the kids, but at the same token, my mom can't afford it. And I know better, I know that. Do I bug my dad? Do I go and bug my dad? Do I bug my grandma and my grandpa? Do I bug my friends? Do I go get a job? Go get a job. Did you ever hear people say, go get a job? Deliver newspapers. Go wait on tables or something. Go wash cars. Go mow the grass. There's a lot of things I could have done that I guess I didn't. Or maybe I did. I remember mowing my dad's grass trying to make money because of reasons like that. I remember doing that for my grandparents, tell them I need to make money, or wash cars. I did that. Sometimes I might ask the neighbors if they need their cars washed. I guess looking back now, I guess I did try to do that. Because I didn't want the unnecessary expense for my mother. It mattered to me. Believe it or not. She might not believe it during the time, but it matters to me. To this day. Let me tell you something. I always said in my heart, and I would tell her, someday, a good fortune's going to come along through my work. And when I do, you're never going to have to worry again. That's what I used to tell her all the time. She wanted so bad to believe it, even in later years, even after high school. I would tell her, I don't know how this is going to happen, but someday I want to be able to take care of you and you're not going to have to worry about working so hard anymore. Let me tell you something. She's now retired. And she's really happy, looking forward to seeing me soon. That bothered me. Did that ever bother you? See your mom or somebody you love working so hard to take care of you and the other children? I actually seen her work. I seen her work. Can I tell you, that affects me. That affected me. I'm learning to kind of get over it. You know? Kind of. Care deeply about her still to this day. I love her very much. Harding Elementary. I'm sure that when I go through and I start talking about other things, you notice my tone and my voice changes. Sometimes I sound like this, sometimes I talk like this. That's me being goofy. Really it is. You know, I can change the tone of my voice so many ways. I talk about this a lot because people are going to get to know about what it's like to be a transsexual and go from one spectrum to the other, meaning gender, male to female, female to male, what have you. Voice is very important to blend in society. And let me tell you, through my entertainment years, musical years, I learned a lot about vocal control. And I can be all over the place. I can be really low, or I can be really high. But it's finding something that fits your image. I learned a lot transitioning. And I don't always hit my mark, which matters to me. So when I listen to a lot of this stuff, I wish I wouldn't do it. But I start talking sometimes like I'm only 3 years old. There's a childlike inner spirit inside of me. And I like to be goofy, so forgive me, okay? I'm still very much a lady in my heart. I always was, but I didn't realize it. It wasn't tapped into knowledge. For maybe the world at large, it wasn't as recognizable as it is today. So if you're out there, you're struggling, maybe you know, have friends, for whatever reason, maybe you've just been bullied. I don't have all the answers. Let's get together. Let's figure out a way that we can minimize it. Okay? I guess maybe it will never disappear. For an adult, maybe we could start showing our children a better way. Whatever better way that's possible, that is. Whatever we can do. Major bully years here. Can I talk like this again? Major bully years. Major bully years. Got my butt kicked a lot here. I'm gonna just end it here with this. Over here where I got my head beat in. Can I tell you this? Ain't nothing like getting punched on the side of your head. You knew it was coming that way all the time. That's what he targeted. He targeted my head. He didn't punch me in the chest, didn't punch me in the gut. It was always my head. Always my head. At some point, when I was living down on Chestnut Street, I guess he was moving on to his junior high school years. Maybe he was in 6th grade. I don't really remember what grade he was in when this started, or what grade I was in, and what grade it ended. But I do know this. One day, he alone showed up, and my mom's husband at the time, the Italian man I was telling you about I was attracted to, he answered the door. My family members were there, and they told me he was standing out front. They wanted me to fight him. They wanted me to fight him. They wanted me to stop getting my butt kicked. And I'm in the house. I don't want to fight him. Can I look at you? I don't want to fight. That's how I felt as a kid. I don't want to fight. So he shows up at my door, and I'm like, geez, now he never bothered me at home before. He never came in our neighborhood. He didn't have to. He lived up the road farther and took the shorter way home, I guess, but he never, very rarely did I ever see him in our neighborhood. Why is he coming to my doorstep? Do you ever feel that way? Why is this guy who's beating me up all the time now showing up? So this guy comes to our doorstep, and everybody wants me to fight him, but I don't want to fight. And they're telling me the only way this is ever going to end is if you stand up for yourself. I don't want to fight. Get over it. I just want to enjoy my life. Can I get an education? So this tough world that we live in, where they say you need to be smart in order to get a job that pays so you can actually have a roof over your head and eat. Can I get an education without getting beat up? How about at Lebanon School District? Can the kids nowadays get an education without getting beat up all the time? Whether they got a smart mouth or not, I don't know what the answers are. There obviously weren't answers back then, but I will tell you what ended up happening. He came to my doorstep not to fight me. His exact words were, I don't want to fight you. I didn't come here for that. I came here to apologize to you. He wanted to shake my hand. As things started to escalate, I told you that his friends started looking at me differently. They weren't there in excitement, wanting me to get beat up anymore. In fact, there'd be times after I would get beat up near the end that he would continue on his way home, and there'd be a certain one that would end up cornering me down the alleyway a little bit. And he told me, he said, what he's doing to you isn't right. I guess he didn't have the answers. But it was his friend. What's he gonna do? That's pretty much what it was. I don't remember the details. I don't want this to happen to you, though. So did he have something to do about it? Did he talk to his friend about, what, why don't we just leave this person alone? We're going to junior high school now. Or if he used to meet me here after junior high school, yeah, it might have been. It might have still been even that far. I don't remember. Because the junior high school got out earlier, which made it harder on the elementary school kids. I don't know if it still happens to this day, but it made it harder because now they're going to be waiting outside and there's nothing you can do about it. Listen to me, there's nothing you can do about it when you're getting out at 3:15 and the kids are junior high not that far away, getting out 20 minutes earlier, and they want to beat you up. They know which class you're in. They have inside. They talk to other kids. They figure this stuff out. It's amazing what you learn in your childhood. I was scared, very scared to shake his hand. I don't want to fight. So I shook his hand. Can I tell you something? Instantly, I was consumed with this outstanding relief. Because remember, I told you, this gentleman reminded me of Michael Jackson. And usually he had this tough look on his face. He was a boxer. I learned at some point during all this that he was a boxer. You think that was some of the reason why he went for the face? Things that they're trained and stuff? He was a fighter. He went to the gym and fought. This was a serious deal. And this guy at that time, he wasn't leaving it in the ring for people who would be a better match for him. He was using his skill because somebody had their ear pierced. And he couldn't deal with that. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm sure if I broke it down and rethought things over, same with colors, as far as clothing and stuff like that. I don't know why people do what they do. Everybody has a different reason. That day when he shook my hand, though, he even looked more like Michael Jackson because he didn't have a mean look on his face. It was like there was his skin was like chocolate, like a light milk chocolate. I remember this because though he was Spanish, he had darker, closer to black skin. But this time he had like a light milk chocolate and a smile on his face. And I just remember everything about him, his hair, everything. He looked great that day. And let me tell you something, he kept to his word. I remember I used to be so scared to go up 12th Street past his house on my bike. And I remember after that going past his house and not being scared anymore. He meant it. He meant what he said. I don't know what changed in him. I don't know what experience he had. I don't know if his mother talked to him about it. I don't know how this got resolved. But I just remember that he was different in appearance. Outstanding. I remember that as a child. I was just like, wow, you don't look anything like the guy that beats me up. And he gave me his word. We're through. We're through with fighting. I can't remember all the words. Maybe someday I will. Be great to put in my song. In a song. I still remember his name. I saw him later years. And I'll tell you what, it was hard on me. It was hard on me I remember seeing the fireworks and everybody here in the city. A lot of people from the city, they go to see these fireworks. And I remember seeing them at different events like that, or carnivals, a couple times, later years. And can I tell you, by this time, of course, I'm just sharing with you, by that time, of course, I'm working out at the gym all the time. I look totally different. I'm studying karate and stuff like that. And can I just say, there was a big part of me that wanted to pay back what he did to me all those years. And I don't know what stopped me from it. Because I walked away. I couldn't even look at him after that. But I remember the day he came there, I was so thankful, so happy. I'm going to go to school now, and I'm not going to get beat up, because really he was the only one. But can I tell you something? It didn't end with him. Now he's done, and other people are taking over. Can you believe that? Now somebody else is taking his position. And if I remember, that day he told me if I have any problems with any of the other kids at school, to let him know. But you know what? If that's true, and he did say that, from what I do remember, I just wanted to forget. I just wanted to forget. And when I started having other trouble with other people, I remembered that. I thought, should I call him up somehow? Should I go to his house? Should I go get him? But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I should have. Maybe it would have brought us closer together. Maybe it would have. I don't know. But I remember that he told me if there's ever any trouble, come and get me. Tell me. From what I remember, he said that. Not in those exact words, though. So much to talk about here. There's a lot of distractions. I'm going to cross the street here and just kind of walk around, show you some other things. Can I tell you, when I was living on Chestnut Street, that at some point, that there was a friend of the family, I don't know if it was with my sister or what have you, but there was a gentleman there that knew martial arts. He would come and hang out with us. And he used to do martial arts. For anybody who studied any kind of fighting, you know that there's different ways of going about things, different styles of karate, I guess, or kung fu. I don't know all the proper terminology for it, but I do know martial arts is a lot different. And to me, it was more, how can I word this? It appeared to be more of a spiritual movement and an art form, martial arts. Am I right or wrong? Maybe I should ask Chuck Norris this. But it seemed to be more of a spiritual and art form, like a dance in a way, a very graceful dance. And he used to do this in our front yard. And he would come by all the time, much like that guitar player. He reminded me of the guitar player from Lafayette Street. And I remember he used to teach us different things. This is during the time that probably Karate Kid was really big. This is a time that I started taking lessons for Ishinryu. And for some reason, he was more heavily into the study and the arts of martial arts than he was with what it was that I was studying. I don't know why or why not. He didn't care for one or the other. But I do remember that I think he studied all forms of fighting. So he would give me some lessons out front in that yard. He knew I was going through things. I guess my family might have said something to him, you know? And he also thought it was important that I learn how to defend myself. Can I tell you something? I don't want to go through life always defending myself all the time. Why? Arrest these people. Lock them up. You know, I don't know what to say to do. But I mean, seriously, mothers, daddies, discipline your children somehow. You know, I don't know what is the answer? What is the answer here? What do we do about this? Reckless behavior. Destroying people's lives. You know, I never got educated. I never got the education that I was worthy of because I was too busy about worrying about getting home. You know, safely without getting beat up. You know? Am I the problem child because I got smart to somebody who's beating me? I'm not saying with this one guy. I'm saying at large. Are the people being bullied the problem? Well, you got smart. You got smart. Of course they do after a while. Did you ever get bullied throughout your life? Of course you're going to. Of course you're going to start saying things you don't mean and you normally wouldn't say without, you know, people chasing you around all the time. Of course you're going to say things that you later on in life you regret. Why did I ever say that? I want to tell you right now, when I lived up here in Union Alley, I used to come to this church, I don't know what it's called. I didn't attend it, but me and my stepbrothers, we used to run around the neighborhood. And one of the things we used to love doing is over there by the steps at the door. We used to love climbing up there, walking up the steps and then jumping down into the yard. I don't know why. We ran around this yard over and over again. And I remember this is when outside of my grandparents and their religious beliefs, this is when I came to a place, and every time I would see a church building like this one specifically and I would walk by it, I'd really start wondering, who is God? What about Jesus? What is going on here? Why am I having such a tough life? And it's very unfortunate. Notice that we paid our dues for this, by the way, but you see these lights? Right down here. Right there. Unfortunately, we used to jump off those steps. There's another one. And we actually that one day, it was only that one day, we actually bent them over for some reason. I don't know why we did that. We did stupid stuff sometimes. Did you ever do stupid stuff? We did stupid stuff that day. Now understand, this is way back in the 80s. I'm probably around the 3rd or 4th grade, living in Union Alley. I'm not sure exactly what grade I was in. Younger brothers, I'm trying to be cool. That's our new pack. And can I tell you, there was a pastor there that day, and he came out, and he was the most loving and patient person, but he did call the cops, and he did ask us to wait downstairs while the cops came. It was the first time. Let me tell you something. At that time, my stepdad didn't really care for police for whatever reason. Okay, no names mentioned. He just didn't seem to care. I remember that as a child because I had a lot of good situations, even like that one. The cop wasn't mean to me. The cop was really, really sweet to me. And so was the pastor of the church. So I didn't really understand what was going on there. I don't need to know. It's none of my business. All right, sorry about that, guys. So listen to me. I was talking about over in the front of the church, how we used to run around that yard. That one day we ran around the yard. We were climbing up the steps, jumping down, bending over the lights and stuff. We were terrorizing, I guess you could say, the front yard. Pastor takes us downstairs to call the cops. At some point, the cop actually came over, very friendly. You know, both these guys are very friendly. I don't think there was any serious consequences involved in it. He kind of was very forgiving, left us go, but he wanted to make sure our parents knew what was going on. So what ended up happening is the cop at that point, when he's talking to the pastor, figuring out what they're going to do about this, he had asked me to go up and stand by the police car. I think me and my two stepbrothers. And we're talking to each other and we're like, you know, we don't want our dad to find this out. We don't want our mom to find this out. Oh, we felt like we were going to be in some hot water. You ever feel that way? So what we ended up deciding to do is we ran home. Now understand that the cop and the pastor already had all of our information. They knew where to find us. Okay, so I was talking about out front of this church. And I was telling you about the trouble that we were getting into. At some point, we ended up going downstairs to talk with the pastor. We gave him all of our information. He called the officers over, called the cops. And at some point, while the cop and the pastor were deciding what they were going to do with us and what the consequences were going to be, the cop asked us to wait up by the car. Me and my two stepbrothers were scared. We don't want to go home to our stepdad. You know, we don't want to get in trouble by him, and we don't want to upset my mother. What can we do about this? And somehow we came across this agreement that we would run as fast as we can and go home. And can I tell you, that was really silly, because what ended up happening is the cops showed up. But the good news is we immediately told our stepdad because we were so scared. And can I tell you something? Though right, wrong, indifferent, whatever you want to feel, is I remember how safe I felt with my stepdad, because I felt like he really took me in at this point, because he had an issue with cops, not me, but he had an issue with cops at that time. And he wasn't going to let a cop bulldog his children around. And I don't know necessarily what ended up happening, but the cop was graceful. I guess they knew who he was at that time. They were very graceful. Like I said, most of the time the cops were very friendly to people in general around here. And I don't know what the end conclusion was, if there was a fine or anything like that, but I remember my stepdad standing up for us, defending us, even though we were in the wrong. And it didn't go without being, you know, reprimanded for it. There was some kind of, I don't know if it was being grounded or what the deal was, if we had to work or like around the house or what have you to kind of pay a fine. I don't remember what the consequence was, but I just remember that stuck within my head forever. So understand, this is the same guy that's beating my mother, okay? It's known that he's a heroin addict, and there's all kinds of things going on there. But there's a lot of mixed, confused feelings, because understand, I get bullied, I have all kinds of things happening, and now my stepdad is defending me, even though I was wrong. Is that love? Is that love? I mean, I was thinking that's love, you know? Was it? What do you think? So I'm getting ready to cross the street. I have just 2 more things to share with you. Can I just say to you that I have a website down here. Sometimes I mess that up. At Tracilyn.com. You can get to know me a little bit better there. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have another YouTube channel. If you you can get to it by clicking on About underneath this video. There should be a bunch of links there. Make it a lot easier.